Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission of the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be playing the Alliance and Enemy Lines mission from Halo 5 on the next episode. If you like what you hear and want to support the show, visit Podcast Evolved on Patreon. This episode, we're debriefing the Swords of Sanghelios mission from Halo 5. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krista Brown.
For Sanghelios!
As she raises her energy sword in the air.
I got like 3 of them, so.
Do you? Nice.
Yeah, I've been collecting.
Last mission was Reunion. While Roland figured out how to continue the hunt using a Guardian located on Sanghelios, Blue Team found themselves on an entirely new planet named Genesis. Our squad of Spartan 2s began to explore the mysterious location and found signs that Cortana is near and leading them toward her. Along the way, Blue Team encountered a detachment of Covenant that hitched a ride on a Guardian and the Warden Eternal, who was vehemently opposed to Chief reuniting with Cortana. Warden fight number 2.
Ooh.
This mission, Swords of Sanghelios, the Sangheli homeworld, is next on the Infinity's hunting itinerary. Fireteam Osiris intends to track down the Arbiter in order to gain access to the Guardian's location at Sunayan. However, they'll have to battle through the civil war that's been raging as the Covenant continues to dissolve. The date of the game is October 27th, 2558. What's going on in this opening cutscene here, David?
Is it? There's some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of opens like a lot of our cutscenes we've seen with a lovely shot of Infinity. And it kind of slow pans in, and then you get the hub of activity on the kind of loading bay. You see Locke and Vale walking up to a Pelican, and Palmer and Halsey are best friends now. So you can forget about how much they hated each other, because now they're best friends.
You know, Halsey's lost an arm because of her, so...
Right.
That's true, she took it really well.
We worked it out.
I don't need that arm.
It's kind of, it's kind of weird what's going on here. So Locke pretty much says, hey, you loading up, Commander? And she says, yeah, we're going to go see if the Doctor can learn to speak Guardian. And then you don't really know where they go. They you kind of...
They go on the Pelican.
They go on, but... Where do they go?
They're just going to go hang out in the Pelican.
I don't know. No one hangs out in Pelicans. Those things crash all the time. They're very, very dangerous.
The longer you're in a Pelican, the more likely you are to crash.
Exactly. So I imagine they're going somewhere on Sanghelios. But Halsey just says, I'll have a briefing for you by the time we reach Sanghelios. So Block pretty much just like says, see you planetside. And then we don't see her planetside. But it's fine.
Well, not this mission.
Not this mission, that's true. Then you get this interesting dialogue of which you would think if you know the backstory to Vale's character, you would understand why she would be the more prominent member of Osiris, because she's all about Sangheli and Sangheli culture. I don't think she's ever been on Sanghelios, so I would have expected her to be way more excited about this than she actually is.
That's a good point.
But she is useful, like she has some good tidbits, and you get the sense that she is a person deep in the kind of Sangheli culture, for a human anyway. So there's a little bit of a sequence here, but it's pretty much Vale reminding you of Halo 2 anniversary terminals, if I'm right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember those things that we did?
Yeah, remember those? So essentially she's just like, hey Locke, you wanted to... You wrote up a dossier all about Arbiter in terms of your recommendation was to assassinate him, which makes total sense because he was like this incredible commander that was slaughtering millions of humans. So you're like, yeah, let's kill that commander because that makes sense. And then Locke just pretty much justifies that, and Vale's like, so what changed? And Locke just goes, things changed. And I guess Sangheli walks up to with Lasky. Yeah. And pretty much says, yep, follow me. The Arbiter is in combat, so we'll have to escort you for you to get to him. Pretty abrupt, but it is pretty cool to see the kind of the ease at which the kind of Sangheli are integrated here, because if you remember flashing back to like Halo 3 when you were co-oping, like it was a rough transition, and it's great to see now, like even a few years later, that okay, it's somewhat they have like a bit of professional. I know like a lot of the book.
You're talking about when they load up and they go onto the arc?
Yeah. But even like surrounding the kind of other mediums around that always played up how much humanity still hated Sangheli, and how much the Sangheli didn't really give a shit about humans. You know, and it's just kind of interesting, and a lot of the sword we're going to talk about a little later, but a lot of the swords of Sanghelios, who and what they are, is based heavily around a mutual respect with humanity, and that's kind of a big deal. So I just think it's kind of cool to show them kind of cooperatively interacting here, and it seems with relative ease, because there are other kind of mediums that show you kind of like the military and even, let's say, the civilians being like very anti-alien still. Do you know what I mean? So there's the two sides of Halo really still, which I think is cool. I like the way that they do that. So it shows them walking up to a ship that I can never pronounce. We're gonna call it a Lich. There you go. This kind of just, the ship just kind of exits infinity and heads down towards the planet. You get kind of a cool fade in that shows the solar system, and then it shows a phantom kind of breaking off the Lich and kind of going down to the surface. It's all red, which is how you know it's cool, because the good guys are the red guys, just so you know. So pretty much we get to land on Sanghelios, which is the homeworld of Sangheli, which is amazing. So pretty much this red phantom just kind of drops you on in, and Osiris, it just the mission begins.
Drops in this little puddle.
Pretty much. It drops you in a canyon.
It's fun to wander around, and I mean, we'll talk about it kind of as we go too, but this is kind of where I was confused. I think I mentioned in the last episode, is like, so you're dropping blue team on a planet, and you're dropping fire team Osiris on a planet. I was like, why are we both on different planets? Shouldn't we be on the same planet? But no, I mean, this is a completely different place. We're on Sanghelios, and you'll see. It's fun to see like the ancient ruins and just the, I don't know if you would call it sandstone. It's probably not sandstone on Sanghelios, but it's just the environment. I think they did a really good job of, and they slowly introduce you to it. Similar in the last mission too, where you get a chance to kind of wander around. There's some dialogue going on. You get to explore a little bit. You poke around. There's lots of intel on this mission, so Crystal loves this one. This might be the most of any mission.
Yeah, they're short.
What is there, 12?
Yeah,
there's 12 pieces of intel, so lots to explore. But you have your Artemis scan, and so they become a little bit easier to track down at least. And so any initial thoughts as you get boots on the ground here, Krista?
A lady talks to you.
Yeah.
What?
Lady Sangheli.
Lady Sangheli.
I got some lady lore if you want some.
I would love some lady lore.
So this beautiful lady is a new character. She's called Maki Chava.
Love the name.
Yeah.
Maki Chava.
Maki Chava. So there isn't a whole lot there about her, but I kind of looked in and I kind of found the little bits and pieces that I thought was quite interesting. So she is a female ship mistress, which is an interesting title. Because females are not considered really part of the active military, definitely not in the Sangheli culture up to now, and it kind of shows the great difference of what Arbiter is doing in bringing a level of equality to the gender which we never would have seen before. And we've talked on Podcast Evolved of like the female Sangheli we've gotten have been really strong, amazing characters when they have shown up. So getting another one here, even though it's a small role, but a ship mistress working with Arbiter, I think is a significant position and a significant thing for the Arbiter to have, which I think is cool. And she hasn't really cropped up since, which is a little bit disappointing, but I think there's avenues there to flesh her out a bit more, especially as we're talking. Her name is Maki Chava. Now the name Chava has actually shown up before for Halo 5. So there are two brothers who are weaponsmiths. They are Oberyn and Silset, and they're Oberyn and Silset Chava. We're not known what their relationship is to Maki, but these two weaponsmiths, they come up in the small bits of lore that you find on the various weapons that are in like the different variants of the Covenant weapons.
That's cool.
So like yeah, they do like they work for your ex-Covenants. They work for the Sword of Sanghelios, both brothers. So I imagine that there's a family here that are kind of in one of their keeps, obviously sides with the Arbiter. So I think there's a cool story to be told there, between these three siblings, potentially. I think that's kind of cool, especially you have like the males who are like are weaponsmiths and not necessarily soldiers, which is where the honor of the Sangheli is, and you have the sister, the female, who is a shipmistress, which is, like I said, very significant. Most of her lore is pretty much taken from this mission. In terms of that, she obviously serves the Sword of Sanghelios. She fight against Julian Dama's Reformed Covenant throughout what's called the Blooding Years, which is like now, pretty much the years of it's pretty much what the Sangheli call their civil war. So that pretty much begins more or less from the October 27th, 2558, which is the death of Madama. That's not where it starts, but that's where this big attack begins. Because right after Jewel dies, the Covenant launched their all-out attack on Thelvanami, on the Arbiter, to try and get him right now with overwhelming numbers. So this battle is kind of in different places and different lores and stuff like that. But anyway, keeping on topic with this lady, she is voiced by a British actress named Jean Gilpin, and I found this interesting because it specifically calls her out. It's the first female Sangheli ever featured in a Halo game. She's never seen in person, only seen in the game transmissions. But it's kind of like, why is this voice actress named? So she's in a ton of stuff. She's a 69-year-old voice actress who has done a ton of games since the 80s and onwards. She's done a lot of voice acting work. So like I've found her kind of, some of the kind of more significant things she's kind of done is obviously Halo 5. She did Dragon's Age. She did some unique characters in Skyrim and stuff like that. So I just thought that was kind of cool to see this voice actress, especially because she's a 69-year-old British woman who is doing the voice of a female Sangheli, and there is no distinction whatsoever of why you would know this person. So I thought that was cool.
Super cool.
Yeah. So there you go. There's some female Sangheli lore.
Yay!
Woo!
Yeah, she's kind of like our Fohammer.
Yeah, a little bit.
Any other thoughts as we're waiting, like about the environment, Krista?
It's beautiful.
Like that?
It's so good.
It's nice to actually visually see Sanghelios. We've already always had it like described in books and stuff, but we've never been able to be boots on ground Sanghelios in a game. So it's really cool to kind of see it, especially since how prominent the Sangheli have become in Halo and the lore and stuff.
Yep.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, this mission was the demo mission for Halo 5.
That's right. Yeah, there's this mission. I think Blue Team was one of the demo missions too. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they were able to show a mission this far in advance of the story. But as we kind of talk about the story, we don't see. There's not really a ton of spoilery stuff here.
It's not. It's not disconnected from everything else, but everything else isn't very connected to this.
Yeah, the whole point of this mission is to just go link up with Arbiter.
And it's kind of interesting that this was demoed that early when you think about the Halo 2 terminals are all about Locke and Arbiter and them talking to each other. And I just find that interesting that it all ties in, that they were showing you pretty much this information way before Halo 5 even came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so wander around, have some, just enjoy, as we usually talk about, especially in Halo 5. There's beautiful environments, and if you feel like because you can clamber around a lot more than you could in the other missions and climb around, you can just do a lot more exploring than you could in previous Halo missions. So do that, and we'll go find some Covenant now to go shoot.
Hooray!
There's kind of a couple different encounters that we have throughout this mission. It's a pretty short mission overall, I would say. It doesn't take too long to get through it, but there's kind of a couple key encounters that we'll just kind of cover, and that'll help frame up how we cover the whole mission. But the initial fight that you have is you climb through the caverns with all the water and whatnot, and then you finally reach the first crop of Covenant. They're not really aware that you're there, but they do bring in a dropship right away, and they prove a little bit of resistance. I don't know, this one may not be really super interesting to go through. I mean, you have your UNSC weapons right away, and you have the cliffs and the verticality, which is I guess a little bit of a change from our standard I guess encounters. In Halo 5 we get to use verticality quite a bit. But anything of note in this initial mission? You have your jackals, and you pretty much have everybody that we're used to fighting here in this point. But you're just kind of going around and picking your favorite weapon. David, anything of note?
There aren't any special weapons in this mission, because I was kind of looking them up this time just to make sure I didn't miss any. There's nothing crazy of note. There's the standard Covenant weapons. I mean, I guess there's a plasma caster and a field rod are kind of the two kind of big power weapons in this, and there's also a sword or two. There's a cool moment where there's like a sword plunged into a Sangheli that you can kind of take. Thought that was kind of cool, because you'd rarely see something like that. Other than that, it's not my favorite for weapons, obviously, because you run out of UNSC weapons pretty quick. Unless you're playing on co-op and they can kill each other and respawn some weapons and ammo and stuff. But I don't know, it's cool. I used a lot of carbine in this and a lot of pot shots. I quite enjoyed ripping turrets off and using them against the Covenant here and too. I enjoy fighting the Covenant generally, so I did enjoy this mission quite a bit, even though it is short.
Yeah, anything to add, Krista? I mean, there's the turret and all that stuff kind of in this next area, but this initial meeting, I guess, I mean, we're not surprised that we're fighting Covenant.
No.
Because, I mean, that's what we're told. We're going to be fighting them. We don't meet any Forerunners here. We don't meet any Prometheans during this mission. The whole mission is like, okay, we're in the middle of the civil war between the Covenant and the Swords of Sanghelios. Let's, get through the Covenant. It doesn't feel, you don't really see a lot of this, the other side, the Swords of Sanghelios. Is that, I don't think it's ever really touched on. It's like the Covenant have come to invade this stronghold, right?
Yeah.
Well,
they're just fighting.
Scion in particular is like oh, that's right. Yeah, where we are now, they're like ambushing the Arbiter. They're here because the Arbiter is here.
Like there's a council chamber.
There's a council chamber. Yeah.
In.
The Arbiter is there, so they've pretty much invaded to assassinate him. But Sunion is like their last stronghold on the planet, because they've been fighting like the Bloody Year, like I said, they've been fighting consistently for some time in their civil war. So like they're pretty much on the brink of being destroyed. So their like last ditch attempt is like, oh, we'll invade now and get the Arbiter here and now, which we'll spoil for later, and whether or not you think that goes well for them.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. So, we kind of proceed like, we usually do, but, again, we're in this big cavern. You do find a bunch of bodies here. After you clear out this first little area, there's a bunch of bodies strewn around, and that's the Swords of Sanghelios, and there's a little bit of dialogue between Fireteam Osiris talking about how that, the Covenant must have snuck up on them or something like that. Vale says a prayer, which I think is kind of cheesy, but I guess kind of cool at the same time. It shows that she knows about the culture. And then Buck chimes in and says that Arbiter is an ally, so as far as I'm concerned, these are dead brothers.
Yeah.
And then Tanaka says, yeah, it's time for payback. So it makes you feel like a little bit more, I guess, that you're siding with the Swords of Sanghelios in this fight with the Covenant versus like, the mission is to get to the Arbiter, but it just gives you a little bit more reason, I guess, to continue and gives you a little more feeling behind it.
It's very open-minded of kind of humans, and I think Buck and Vale that they take on that sentiment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a couple years ago they hated each other.
Yeah, maybe not even that long ago, because when you think about whatever else is going on in the universe, they haven't met the Swords of Sanghelios before. This is their first, like, quote-unquote joint operation with them. And it's kind of like,
also,
oh shit.
Like, the Sangheli didn't want any help with their civil war, which is why no human presence is there. Like, Arbiter's like, no, we need to handle this by ourselves, go away. So it is weird for humans to kind of be here right now, which is why this was kind of so talked about in the cutscenes in like a roundabout way. It's like, I'm not sure we should go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we're not really. I mean, humans have probably been on Sanghelios at some point, but not very often. Not many, and not very often. So they're not like we're really welcome here. We're kind of invading their space, and they're very prideful people, or they're a very prideful race.
Yeah, there's been some kind of Oni operations around Sanghelios and even on it, but nothing really official. I think Glassman was one of the first, if not
He
the
was
first official. Yeah, human who was allowed on Sanghelios.
You mean Phillips?
Yeah. Sorry, did I say Glassman? Sorry,
Yeah.
I made Phillips. Yeah.
I get them confused a lot too.
Phyllis.
They're kind of similar roles.
In my mind, I picture them as the same person. Visually, how they look. But anyway.
Definitely. All right, so now we go through there's these caves that we're going through here, and we pop out on the other side, and then there's a bunch of snipers up top. And this I guess this gets a little more interesting here because there's snipers up top, and there's a pit down the middle, and eventually some drop pods come in here. Krista, what are you doing here?
This is the part that gives you a beam rifle right away, right? I think it's like right on that ledge.
I think there's like a there's like somebody
I missed it.
that's Sangheli or something like that. We'll grab it up there.
Yeah, so I took that immediately, and I just pretty much stood up there with my... The interesting thing is, like, you can stand up there with the carbine and the beam rifle, but no enemies are going to spawn outside of, like, a couple grunts and the jackals until you drop down. So you can't really, like, stay up there the entire time. Mm-hmm. You have to actually get down. So the next place I went once I dropped down was up to the left. There's, like, an elite there, and then you can kind of bust through a wall. There's kind of a ledge up there you can kind of sit on and snipe from there. That's where I hung out.
Yeah, those snipers, you really gotta get those snipers, otherwise they're gonna, especially on harder difficulties, otherwise they're gonna take you out pretty quick.
And then your teammates just don't know how to revive you, and they just end up jumping around like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really is a lot of verticality in this mission. You can get way up high, and you can get down low, so you can find lots of nooks and crannies and corners to take out enemies at a distance, and I feel like I'm doing that more so in this mission than I normally am. Normally I'm, kind of going gung-ho, just kind of get in the middle of the fight, maybe find a little corner, but there are enough. There's enough enemies. Again, it would have been a little more interesting if you could actually see if you were in the middle of the battle, especially at the beginning, or at least maybe closer to the beginning. There's something towards the end that feels a little bit more like a struggle. But at the beginning, it would have been interesting where you feel like stepping into a fight. We saw the dead Sangheli just a second ago. Maybe like in this area, you can see like maybe the last remnants of a battle, and then the Covenant standing their ground or something like that. I love these giant drop pods again. We talked about them in the past, like the luxury drop pods. They're just huge, different than what we've seen in the earlier games. But this is an alright area. It's brings whenever I encounter this, like it brings back pretty good memories of kind of just climbing through this whole mission and fighting through. Once you get past this initial area, then there are some turrets to deal with. So grab one of those as soon as you can and proceed. But really, just a lot of grunts and some jackals to deal with, and our typical warfare that we're used to here. Anything else just to touch on? Again, David, you said that there's a couple of weapons here and there. I'm not remembering all the right spots. Maybe we just cover all
there's not a lot going on. There's some carbines, a lot of storm rifles, plasma pistols, needlers, the standard Covenant fare. If you look around, sometimes you can find the fusion cannon or a plasma caster. I love the plasma caster, so generally I pick it up when I can see it. But other than that, that's pretty much all that's on this mission.
Yeah.
I did a turret for a little while and stuff like that, but nothing crazily interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm usually rolling. Go ahead.
No, you're right. I like this canyon. This area is pretty cool. You pretty much kind of covered it all, though.
Yeah, I'm usually rolling with the carbine as much as possible. I do like the storm rifle more in this game, so I'll use that a little bit. Otherwise, I like the needler too, so I'm grabbing the needler and leveraging that as much as possible. The next area, it's like this big hill area that you're slowly climbing up, and there's, you know, a bunch of rocks and kind of, you know, it's a ruins area. But then at least I always kind of go up to the right, and there's a breakable wall that you can bust through, and then you can sneak behind a little bit. There's a couple, let's see, there's a jackal up in there, and then there's a stealth elite that comes charging at you, so take care of him as quickly as possible. You can grab that sword, but it's not super useful in this mission, at least not until you get to the very top, maybe.
Dude, that stealth elite totally caught me off guard when
Yeah.
today. I was like, oh yeah, that guy's there. Shit.
He comes charging.
Well, the other problem with it is that if you get killed by the stealth elite and then you ask for assistance, your teammates just stand there and let the elite just sword them to death. So one by one, your teammates just all die.
God damn it.
Yeah, that's true.
Just like, oh jeez, why?
Yeah, there's a little more struggle on the revive mission, or the revive mechanic on this mission, but overall, I think it gets better towards the end of the game. But we'll see. We'll see as we talk through the rest of the missions. But I like this canyon area. I feel like I try to clamber around on things a lot here, because there's like this spire kind of in the middle that you can climb up on. I think there's some intel way up there, and you can do lots of ground pounding, and yeah, there's just lots to do and climb around in this area. So have fun. There's plenty of enemies, so I feel like I'm not usually like leveraging the checkpoint as well. Usually, maybe die and hoping that I got to the checkpoint by the time I get to the top. It's not super easy unless you're being really slow and methodical and taking your time clearing everybody out the bottom. The Covenant will kind of come down and charge after you though, so it's a good fight. It's a good area. It's a good co-op area, I feel like, too.
This whole mission's great for co-op, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Once you reach the top, finally, you get through, you can kind of reload with some weapons and whatnot. There's a little bit more dialogue between the team, and Vale brings up an interesting point, and it's kind of hard because you're like on this planet that's super far away, so you don't really understand, when their civilization took place versus the humans and whatnot. But Vale says that all of this stuff, all these ruins predate, ancient Egypt, which is an interesting fact and something that's interesting to think about. That this society was thriving far in advance of what humans were.
All I'll say to that is humans got there first, and then we got regressed the hell back. So it's not our fault.
It is true.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
We were one of the Forerunners' biggest enemies.
Have they talked much about Sangheli and their reseeding? I don't think they have.
No, never. There was
they
a
never became
brief,
advanced enough.
There was one of the animations of the Halo Origins that was in which was one of the Halo Legends short movies, short animated shorts things. I said short too many times there, but there's a scene, I remember it, which shows the reseeding happening, and it has like wholly fully formed animals coming out of Forerunner structures. And one of them I remember being a pretty much naked Sangheli.
Very naked and very pink.
So, I remember that much. So, they did exist back then, but probably weren't advanced enough to be a spacefaring culture.
Yeah.
I see, okay.
An interesting race that was advanced enough was the Prophet race, the Senshai-Hun. They were there.
We don't talk about them, Krista. We don't talk about them, Krista.
We're not going to either.
No. It's true.
They're all dead.
Well, there's a couple around here and there.
Dead.
Boo, dead.
Alright, so we rearm ourselves with whatever you want to grab here.
Whatever the hell's lying on the floor.
Bonkers. Yeah, whatever's around. And then we pop out on the other side of this cave, and you see a bunch more Covenant ships coming in.
And you see Sunayon in the background.
You see Sunayon. Yeah, I didn't mention that you see that at the very beginning, but it's a cool little looming city. It's like a water city on stilts, something like that. It's pretty interesting, and we will be there soon.
Spoilers.
It's fun just fun to see a little bit in the background, which is cool.
Isn't there a skull right here too?
Yep, there's a skull right
It's
here.
a pain in the ass
You
to get.
Do a little climbing around, and
It
you
is real
gotta
hard.
really use all your Spartan abilities to get there.
Yeah, you have to like hover. You have to like charge, hover with
Sprint,
the
boost, hover, boost, or some shit like that. Some weird
I think you have to
combination
like
of-
hover with the ground pound or something because then you can get your boost back. It's something like that. It's like boost, hover, boost, and then you get there. But it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they really tuck that one away. So if you've been exploring, again, if you're one of those people that are looking for the skull on your own,
You might not find that
obviously,
one on
we
your own.
spoiled that, but but this would be a very hard one. It's like maybe I can get up there, but it would be a big pain. I guess you'd probably be able to see it once you kind of get high enough because it's on another little plateau up there. You probably say, "Oh, I can get over there. There's the skull," but it is a little bit. But that's the mythic skull, so we can grab that. Buck has a good line here. He talks about he sees all of the Covenant, flying over in the sky and drop pods and whatnot. And he goes, just act casual. Maybe they won't notice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then now we're kind of getting towards the end of the mission. Again, it's pretty short, but the fun stuff, the really fun stuff, is coming. But what we do now is now we see a little bit more. I think you see the council chambers off in the distance, so you can see where you're going. But we have to go through like a different chamber area. When you jump over this big gap, and it was probably a bridge at some point or something. One of the questions I was thinking about, and especially when Vale talks about this predates the Egyptians, is this area ruins because of the Civil War, or was it always ruins?
Unclear.
No, I think it was. Yeah, it's unclear. Some of it doesn't look like battle damage. Like it doesn't look like recent damage. Do you know what I mean? So I get the impression it was probably ruins anyway, especially if it's that old.
But why would they have
this is
important council meetings in ruins?
Yeah, that was my question.
I don't know if it was an important council meeting, and I guess it probably was important, but let's just say when you think about what the Swords of Sanghelios actually are, they're trying to hark back to a pre-Covenant era Sangheli and what they were like, because the Sangheli are reeling from being cut loose from the Covenant. They're not good at farming, they're not good at the Covenant makes you very subservient and very kind of reliant on them. Codependent, yeah. So when you lose a lot of that infrastructure, you find when you're a warrior race, how the hell do you farm? Do you know what I mean? So there is huge losses there. So I think the Arbiter is going to these culturally significant sites and holding meetings there to kind of have them in an area that will inhibit or, let's say, bring forth and add maybe some legitimacy to what he's trying to do. Yeah, that's my understanding of it.
Yeah, because is the comment something about predating the Covenant, right? Like this was all around and used before the Covenant was even around. So let's go to these ancient sites and kind of experience that historical culture as we're looking to rebuild the Sanghelian culture.
Well, and to them, this is like when their race was great, and when they were self-sufficient, they were more powerful and stuff like that. Like they kind of lost their way on their way through the Covenant.
And they were a spacefaring race before.
Yeah.
We get to this little, I don't know, I guess this is like a chamber of some sort. Like there's something going on here. People were hanging out here at some point. But we get here, and then Maki Chava chimes in, and she says, "All right, I'm on my way." But before that happens, a couple of hunters get dropped in the middle here. You have a fun hunter. Chris,
I will say the new spirits, the new model, I think they look class.
Sick. Oh my god,
Yeah,
I love how they
amazing.
fan open.
Yeah, they're awesome. They their doors open one at a time in kind of sequence, and like you said, open like a fan. It's pretty cool. They look amazing.
Krista, you're not a fan of this area? This hunter
fight? Hunters are kind of annoying in this game. Just in general. Especially on Heroic, they're just a bit tougher.
They're real aggro, especially because when they can use 2 types of fire modes.
It's so annoying. It's like, ugh. Because I mean, like when they were using the one type of fire mode, they were really easy to dodge. But when you don't know which one they're going to be using, it's kind of a whole different strategy from all the different Halo games.
That's true.
Uh,
Can you ground pound them to the does it do any damage?
no, they just laugh at
It's
you and
not
then
worth
they
it.
crush you.
They kill you till you die from it.
But
So, like-
I think I kind of stay. Actually, I've done it a couple different ways, but there is a little cove off to the left that you can go into, and I believe there's some weapons over there, and you can kind of hunker down.
There's a fuel
You really
rod.
won't come into that area. I mean, they probably will eventually if you taunt them enough. They'll charge after you. But I feel like there's enough area around here, and it's almost built for them to be the hunter just to be in the center, and then your fire team to fan around and kind of just focus fire on it. David, what's your approach?
Pretty much I do all something similar. Like today, I wasn't ready for them. Totally forgot they existed. So they dropped in right on top of me and instantly wiped my team. So I was like, well, that's great. So second time round, I had a fuel rod ready and a plasma caster. So I took out one pretty quick. Then had my team focus on the second. That second one took way longer. I wasted all my ammunition pretty much on the first one. I'm playing heroic just so you know. So I took a lot of dodging. Got downed a few times before I managed to get some grenades under him and kind of blow off his back armor. And then eventually I had enough of my team spread out that he was kind of turning and trying to shoot everyone. So like his back was, I got a lot of good shots on his back.
Yeah, I'm usually exhausting my grenades in these fights. Just throwing as much as I can, hopefully trying to be accurate. But it usually wears me down quite a bit for me. Alright, now some good stuff happens. Maki comes in and she gives a present to us. Some mentai. With courtesy of Palmer, because Palmer's awesome. Commander Palmer gives her these manti to go and finish off the mission.
Wrong. Commander Palmer is not.
David,
cool.
how you feeling about the manti now? Mantis in this in Halo 5. Any better?
I think it is a little bit better. I felt like today I was overheating all the time. I don't know if they were always like that because I remember getting a lot more shots in the chain gun in Halo 4. It's okay. It's fine. I think it plays pretty much the same way, where you're constantly having your shield down. So all I'm hearing is my shield down, beeping at me all the time. But like I pretty much think you have to use the Mantis in this segment. I've done it a few times where I didn't. I've directed my teammates to kind of pick them to get into them, and I take the Wraith in the next part. Yeah.
Yeah. Krista, do you take the Wraith?
No, I don't. I stay in the Mantis and I stomp on people.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I love stomping.
All the stomping.
So good.
Stomp is pretty fun. If there's one redeeming quality of the Mantis, is the stomp.
You be quiet, David.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to talk anymore.
Oh man, stomping on a ghost and having it explode around
So
using me is such a
good.
satisfying feeling.
I found that,
Yes.
like, to get the AIs to do anything, you just have to mark literally everything. Like, I mark an elite
Yeah.
and then I go do something else, or I mark a ghost and go do something else. That's what I've been trying to do. I just mark everything now. And now they're actually helpful if you mark everything.
That's pretty much what I've been doing. Yeah.
I wonder what the logic is otherwise. Is to just shoot at the thing that's closest to them?
No, they just
And
stand
I don't-
around
that's
and
why they're
look at
not
the
helpful.
walls and, like, stare at the ground.
I don't know if they put a lot of fire on the enemies if they're not being told to. They don't seem to be like aggressively minded. Do you know what I mean? They don't seem to have like an AI preset in terms of like going defensive, offensive, long range, short range, or anything like that. They just seem to float around you, more so than progress anywhere unless you're specifically telling them to.
That would have been a nice little tweak. Maybe they'll do that in future installments. But just be able to set kind of if they are going to be like you are the distance person. Just like preset it before the mission. You know, like Linda, you're going to be distance. You're going to be sniper, and Kelly, you're going to be close range, and then or I guess we're talking about Fireteam Osiris. So I guess who's the sniper in Fireteam Osiris? It would be Locke,
Tanaka,
maybe?
I guess.
Tanaka, maybe.
Tanaka has a DMR. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so she could be the sniper. But anyway, that would be nice to kind of set that. And like, if they're more aggressive, that's a good thought there. The first little area that you encounter with your manti are just kind of like a hey, remember the mantis? Or if you haven't played it, like here, test out the mantis, and it gives you a kind of small little area to with a lot of covenant to stomp on or shoot or blow up or whatnot. So the initial area Have some fun there. There is the Wraith right in the middle. Don't blow up the Wraith, because that's yours for the taking. And I don't think I've ever jumped in that Wraith. So, David, you said you have before?
I have. I didn't do it this time, but I have.
Yeah. I feel like what I've done with the Wraith is I've taken my Mantis into the next area, and then by the time it's smoking, I've hopped out of it and then gone and stole the Wraith from whoever's still in it, and then try to finish off the area from there. But use this first area as a little test, testing out the controls and whatnot, or remembering what the Mantis is, and then you get to this door where once you clear out the whole area, then a Sanghelios is like, okay, there's the council chambers are off in the distance, go get them! And this is the final big arena to finish off the mission. Krista, what's your approach in this area? Are you going up to the left? Are you going down below where those hunters are?
I usually actually go down below. I just kind of work my way through the whole thing, kind of just down the middle, just kind of stomp my way through.
Well, you feel pretty invincible. At least I do.
Oh yeah.
In the Mantis. So it's like I'm okay taking some damage. I'm just gonna go and roll my way through. David, how about you?
I've done this multiple different ways because this is one of my favorite areas. I love this open area mission because there's essentially 3 routes you can go, and they play differently, which I kind of really like. So
it's
the
like
middle,
MOBA. It's like Halo MOBA.
Oh my god, how dare you! I don't know what that means. So the middle has like the heavy weapon vehicles and the hunters. You can go right, which just has like some spirits that drop in some enemies to you. So like the right, I think, is definitely like the easier route to go. On the left, you got like a high kind of cave, but hunters do spawn in there too. So they've got me. Like this area on legendary is so tough. And in terms of like trying to get yourself through. The only saving grace is that when you get to the end, the doors will open and you can kind of run through. You don't have to kill everything. But like there's there's ghosts in here, there's wraiths, there's hunters. There is every form of covenant that there is, except for drones, I suppose there isn't any. But you got loads of grunts, lots of jackals, lots of carbines, loads of elites. It's pretty cool. It's got a mix of everything.
There's that wraith there at the end, guarding that door.
Yeah, with some fuel rod elites as well.
Yeah, and then you actually, there's an area above that you can climb up to, and just skip a lot of it if you kind of go up to the left. I think that's what I did in my legendary run. Is I went up onto the left. I got out of my Mantis because it usually doesn't last very long on legendary, and then just kind of skirted up to the left, climbed up to the top, and then hoped for the doors to open once I broke through the floor up there. It's a cool set piece. It's a great area. Yeah, I have a lot of fun in the spot. Again, especially this whole mission is really fun on multiplayer and co-op. So do that if you haven't. Find some buddies. Do it. All right, so that door opens finally towards the end here. I think there are some ghosts that you could grab, but we're almost at the end. There's just some stairs to climb up and wind around. There's a little bit of dialogue back and forth. You finally do hear the Arbiter's voice. Oh,
beautiful.
Arbiter?
Arbiter?
Is that you? So once you I guess there is one more area. So you climb up this other area. It gives you a little bit of a restock. And then there's some final drop pods that come in play and put up some final resistance. Before you get into the Mantis, you have some Swords of Sanghelios with you. But by now
they're all dead.
They're all dead.
We failed them.
They don't last very long. Yeah, but there is a good bit of resistance here in this little final stretch. Lots of drop pods, lots of elites, lots of grunts. They're trying to stop you from getting to the Arbiter as much as possible. But if you're in your Mantis or you're in one of the vehicles, you can make pretty quick work with them.
The fight scene when you're kind of like climbing up the stairs is really, really cool.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Are you talking about when you finally get to the Arbiter?
Well, you're almost there.
Just before you get to him. Like when you enter the building structure and they're fighting each other as you go up. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So finish it off. You see kind of these the flags of the Swords of Sanghelios, and then you're making your final climb. There's you can see some other Sangheli of your brethren, I guess, right? Your brothers, your Sangheli brothers.
It's cool to see them fight Covenant.
Dying on the stairs, but yeah.
It is.
This is the point where you see a little bit more of the war, but you're just coming in and wrecking shop. He really is taking over. Like, all right, I'm just gonna clean this up for you, and I'm gonna get to the old Arbiter.
Especially if you're me and you take the mantis all the way up to the Arbiter.
Yes.
So
I like when you
crushing
get to him,
everybody.
he just doesn't need your help at all. He like offs two guys right away.
Yeah.
it's awesome to see that in gameplay.
He doesn't have his
Just the-
sword though. He's just got a
He
normal
has
one.
the sword. Oh, he doesn't have the.
He doesn't have the Prophet's
what's it called?
Bane yet.
Prophet's Bane. Yeah. He doesn't have that yet. I feel like though at the end when you finally do get to the Arbiter, it's cool to see him do his thing. You could actually miss it technically if you get up to trigger it, but then like look around and you could potentially miss what he's doing. But you climb up the stairs, you see him off to elites, and then he says, "Oh, what are you guys doing?"
Which is
Spartans.
weird to think that hadn't you talked to the Arbiter before now? Like how did you get the Swords of Sanghelios on Infinity? Is what I'm kind of finding weird.
Yes.
And him not knowing what you were coming, but I guess maybe he meant specifically Locke, because it seems
That
to
could be
be
it.
there's another cutscene. I don't know. No, I think it starts with the end of the start of the other mission.
the
But,
mission just ends here.
pretty
So
much.
It feel like it ends abruptly, and then that one dialogue like Spartans. What's the meaning of this? So maybe it's like Lasky made contact somehow and didn't say that they were going to insert the Spartans. At the opening cutscene, Lasky and Locke kind of have that conversation of like, hey, if this goes wrong, nothing happened. So maybe something along those lines.
That's true. Maybe, yeah, okay. Maybe Lasky got in touch with McKee and kind of arranged this little side op themselves to very much, because obviously they got the Swords of Sanghelios onto Infinity and got them down to Sanghelios. Somebody gave permission for that to happen, and then to say, yeah, this is a mission that doesn't exist. I kind of forgot about that. That
But
he
you-
says that.
You would think that they would have some sort of communication technology.
They
to
definitely
give the
do.
Arbiter heads up.
Because in the books and stuff like that, they definitely talk about how Lord Hood is talking to the Arbiter at various stages for various things, and like before this mission happened, Infinity came, like Infinity's like maiden voyage, is, or quote unquote the Thursday War, which is where that kind of book is kind of named after, is when a ship is put through its paces in like a small kind of battle and stuff, but they pretty much brought Infinity to Sanghelios and blew the shit out of everybody and saved the Arbiter's ass. And it was like an ultimate introduction of humanity as now the largest and probably one of the best space forces now, because with the dissolution of the Covenant, there's a huge gap to fill, and like the Infinity is like way bigger, way more advanced than anything humanity's had up to that point. So like it's weird then that he has to send in a little covert team to go say, hey Arbiter, what's up?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I don't know what's happening here, but obviously I don't think the Arbiter's been in communication with Lasky. There's something else kind of hinting there, and maybe that's some of the story that was cut, or some of it that doesn't make sense now.
Maki Chava shows up. Her phantom is off to the side. You can see it, and then Arbiter just walks towards it, and then the mission ends. The Arbiter has some sweet gold armor. I want to talk about the next mission because we can see.
He got that Gucci armor.
But he got dressed up.
Yeah, he does.
He got dressed up. Any other points on the Swords of Sanghelios? Like, we haven't seen the Arbiter since 2553, when he was at the memorial for John, when John was presumed, dead, more or less, and missing in action. What's Arbiter been up to?
He's been a busy boy. Pretty much where you see him, the shipmaster of Ratus pretty much takes him and brings the majority of the Sangheli back to Sanghelios. There's a book, Shadow of Intent, which tells his story a bit more, and I can't really remember, but I pretty much think he just drops him off and the Arbiter gives him a mission. I think it's loosely based on tracking down Covenant remnants and prophets and stuff like that. I can't really remember that book, but anyway, it splinters off and just kind of leaves the Arbiter on Sanghelios, and then he pretty much begins recruiting, and like it says, okay, the Sangheli initially lacked organization after being cast out of the Covenant, There was various different separatists. Like I said, Shipmaster Ratus Fadum, he had a significant number of forces at the end of the war, and Tel Vadam pretty much took over them, and then didn't really formally establish the swords until after the end of the war. So there was a few different factions. The Swords of Sanghelios being like one of the most dominant ones, pretty much based all upon like, you know, the Arbiter's reputation, and like everything that he achieved is pretty much well documented, I think, among Sangheli.
I love the nickname. So I guess the faction name Swords of Sanghelios too.
Oh yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, it is pretty. It's like an ancient name, like an ancient sect that apparently has cropped up numerous times in Sangheli culture for like different reasons. Different people have claimed to be the swords. So there was pretty much that's where they got their name. So because of the Arbiter's policy of cooperating with humanity, this brings him a lot of benefits, but also a lot of negatives. And that's pretty much where a lot of the beef really kind of stirs up on the homeworld. So like he eventually consolidates his strength all under one banner and calls them the Swords of Sanghelios. And they're all based around Vadam, which is where the Arbiter is from, and his keep. So pretty much it's like an ancient title of honor expressing their nobility, and the unification of the Sangheli people is their cause, as you can imagine. So on
but it's also
homeworld,
a little bit about the acceptance of the, I mean, not directly, like it's not part of their, I don't know, their charge, but they're also saying like humanity's not as bad as we thought, right? Like other races aren't terrible. They're very much accepting of humanity as much as Sangheli can be, because there was interesting times throughout like various bits of lore where you see different characters questioning the prophet's adamant hatred of humanity. Like, why do we hate them when they're clearly advanced enough to join the Covenant, and the Covenant would be stronger for it, yet we're eradicating them? And that's obviously because of like various other things, and you know, we're the reclaimers and all that kind of stuff, and that goes very much against what the prophets were selling and their lies. But anyway, there was other various factions, obviously that were very strong, known as the Servants of the Abiding Truth. So they viewed the Swords of Sanghelios as blasphemers, and they began an insurrection, and that was supported by Oni because they wanted the civil war to go on to keep the Sangheli weak. So that was kind of all the kind of very interesting backgrounds of what was going on with the Halo 5 trilogy. So there's loads of background lore there, and the Arbiter is touched upon there at various points throughout the years of that operation. He's directly involved in some of the stuff, which is cool. That's where you get the conversations between Lord Hood and Arbiter, and Arbiter is very much to humanity like, stay away, let me deal with this shit, because you showing up makes things worse for me. So it was only like in the most extreme measure when Infinity actually showed up and saved the day, which is still such a cool goddamn moment. And so pretty much Tel was supposed to be like going around and visiting all the keeps and kind of pretty much doing it like I think like American politicians do, where they go around to the states and kind of garner support and have rallies and all that kind of stuff. So he was doing that, and I think, however, by 2553 January, there was a great dissent amongst the Sangheli factions, and eventually it kind of bled over into like their civil war as various factions warred against each other, and it was a very slow process. But I think it was kind of interesting that one of those books, things that when Oni are like evaluating Sangheli and their culture, they're like, okay, one faction is gaining way too much too fast, we need to slow them down, and we need to support this faction here, and thought that kind of interaction, like, it's so sneaky. It was so cool to see that kind of portrayed of humans are like puppeteers of kind of like, okay, we cannot fight you directly, but what we can do is have you manipulate you to fight each other. Thought that was awesome. And Jula's surfaced during these books too.
Yeah, very much so. That's where like all that side story of comes into the Didact's Hand is like another splinter group of like ex-Covenant, and they're trying to keep up the Covenant essentially, and you know, their worship of the Forerunners and stuff like that, and that's a splinter group of the Servants of the Abiding Truth. I mean, there's loads going on there pretty much, but going around Sangheli and the factions, but the end result is obviously the Arbiter is fighting and eventually we'll get to the resolution in the next mission.
There is some dialogue here towards the end of this mission, talking about how the Covenant's making one last, push to assassinate or to take out the Arbiter. There's a little back and forth, just saying like if they're successful, it could be really bad. So that's another small motivation. If the Covenant, with the remains of the Covenant, actually did kill the Arbiter in this battle, or if we didn't interject and we didn't save him, but he was doing okay, but we definitely helped. If we didn't intervene and they assassinated him, then things would have been very different. Could have been very different.
Yeah.
So no end cutscene here. We just there's just a slow fade. There's more interesting stuff to happen and talk about in the next episode, which we'll cover. Any trivia that we missed?
Nothing else other than this campaign level takes place on the same day as the release date of Halo 5 Guardians, 543 years in the future.
Wow!
So there you go. Thought that was interesting. Other than that, you pretty much touched on everything else. The skull, there's 12 pieces of intel, which is a lot. Crystal will go into that now in a minute. And there are 2 dead elites right outside the council chamber that are holding hands.
Aww.
Oh, they love each other. All right, Krista, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Here we go.
Is it good?
It's not bad. It's a lot of Covenant and Sanghelios stuff. So if you're into that, you're gonna like this.
Yeah. All right.
So the first 3 are all the ceremonial sword, which is an ancient proverb on the hilt of a sword that you kind of find. So the first one is, words are the most powerful before blades are drawn. The second one is, the sun warms those who stand before those who kneel in their shadows. And the final one is, strength comes from recognizing another's weakness. So those are those kind of just tidbits of Sangheli wisdom.
Talk about the culture.
Do you feel wiser?
I
Okay,
do.
good. This next one is Sangheli Personal Log 503. I don't know where all the other ones went, but the rumors are true. Jewel Mandama is dead. We should regroup on Hesteros, but my brothers would rather die in reckless attacks on the swords of Sanghelios than suffer the dishonor of a tactical retreat. Which just kind of highlights basic Sangheli tactics, where they would just rather die.
Yeah.
Literally, they're just like, fuck it, I'll die.
Yeah, that's hardwired in that culture.
It really, really is. They'd rather die. Like if they spill any blood, it's considered dishonor and they're shamed. If they're mortally wounded, like a bone's broken or something like that, not even mortally wounded. If a bone's broken or something, they won't heal it. They'd probably just end up killing themselves. It's some crazy stuff. We have a bunch of patrol logs in this. This one is from Scout Gatam. Claim allegiance to the Arbiter, but a traitor's working with the Covenant. Why do you skulk in the shadows? Come draw your blades. You live without honor. Must you die the same way? I will kill you all myself. So that is a scout goading hidden Covenant forces into attacking. The next one is another patrol log. This is Scout Thrun. Jewel Mandama is dead. The Covenant fractures. Soon the Kigyar contracts will expire. The Swords of Sanghelios will stand triumphant. So that is the Jackals at this point are not working for the Covenant because they believe in anything. They're working because they're being paid.
Yep, that's just Jackals.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love the idea of you take away their money and then they lose half their forces.
Yeah,
because
they
they're all
just leave.
mercenaries.
So the next one is King Kit Pitlimp's Adventure Log 1 out of 4. I am Kit Pitlimp, the Explorer. The Covenant's future depends on ancient Forerunner secrets. That's what Jewel Mandama said, so I will look for them. I know there are some old places around here, and I will discover at night, so no Arbiter forces can see me. I think it's a grunt. I'm pretty sure it's a grunt.
Pretty sure it's
That's
a grunt. Sounds
definitely a grunt.
The next one is another patrol log from Scout Makesh. Scout Makesh, 3rd Patrol. We walked into an ambush. I repeat, a Covenant ambush. Send reinforcements. So, very interesting.
Yeah, that's weak.
These next two are a message to Kit Arak. Kit Arak, my brother. Though we fought as though we were growing up, only now are we truly enemies. I hope you will see through the lies of Jewel Mandama. The swords of Sanghelios would welcome a warrior as strong as you. And then the next one says, Kit Arak, my brother. I remember our first hunt together. When we brought our prey home, it was a moment of greatness, of hope, and the Covenant brings only shame to the Sangheli, but it will soon fall. I wish to hunt with you at my side again, brother. It's not too late. So, obviously urging someone to switch sides.
Mm-hmm.
The second to last one is Sangheli Personal Log 139. I can't wait to read the rest. Jewel Mandama has been killed. We will answer this dishonor by placing Arbiter's head on a pike.
Oh.
The Swords of Sanghelios is nothing but a stain on our homeworld's history. Long live the Covenant. So this guy's kind of not feeling it at all.
He bleeds purple.
This final one's kind of weird. It's Patrol Log Scout Hakat. It just says, another day of endless meetings. Our talents are wasted here. This is a piece of mission intel. So this is what the notes are in Halopedia. This piece of mission intel appears to be bugged or mislabeled in the game. The recording seemingly has no relation to the corresponding description. So the description is an audio log by Scouts Ree and Vatah Hakat, and captures a Covenant ambush. So another day of endless meetings. Our talents are wasted here. So that's a weird
disgruntled.
one. I don't know. It's supposed to be like after a Covenant ambush. Why would there be meetings? But it's weird. So that one was weird. But that's all of them. So some cool Sangheli stuff.
Yeah.
I can't wait to learn more about this adventurer, this explorer.
Yeah.
Kit Pitlimp. He's my new favorite character. So.
Kit Pitlimp. What? Alright, let's do some community stuff and we'll get out of here. Facebook have anything fun to say?
Okay, very quickly, we can do Colin Perkins, admin, November 2nd at 7:55 p.m. You just finished writing your Spartan Sangheli Buddy Space Cop screenplay. What did you name it? Question from Mission Debrief, Halo 5 Swords of Sanghelios mission. It's a good question, Colin.
Gracias.
A great picture there. It's a good job, buddy. So, Brad Tharp decided to answer for everybody a billion times, so we got a good few comments here. Some of them pretty good, to be fair. We got Tucker and Blarg, Bad Boy 17 Gruntpocalypse, Die Hard 47 Not So Great Journey, Tango and Hingehead, which I really like, Lethal Weapon, Just Another Reboot, which I thought was pretty funny, Venezia Vice, which is great, To Live and Die in Sunayan, also great, Rush Hour 4 for no reason. Says Matthew. Manny says Franken Natho Infinite Playlist. That's pretty good. David says Spartan Blart Space Cop. It's pretty good. Rasmus says Here Comes Team Smoothie Blue. Don't know what that is. Anyway, Lucas says The Hingehead and Mr. Roboto, or Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. YouTube it. Okay. James Gozel says Good Cop, Wart Cop.
That's good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Then you have Brute Force. That's pretty good by Martin. Or Merchant. Corey says Jawbreakers. Then we have Lance says The Demon and the Blark. Chris says Pete and the Elite, which is pretty good. Patrick says How I Met Your Mother.
What?
Okay. And Trenton. Ugh, Trenton. Lethal Weapon 5. I Need One.
Is that it?
Is that it?
That's
Okay.
all I got. That's a
Way to
pretty
end it,
good one.
Trent.
Good job, Trent.
What's Discord have to say? Anything?
Alright, Dizzy Bumper says Rush Hour Halo. Samurai says The Lion, the Witch, and the really fucked up looking alien. Ian says Sparty and Wart. Dezuto says stop or my wart will shoot. Avery Johnson says an unexpected bromance in the middle of an investigation. The tale of the blargiest blarg. Matt says Dr. Wart blarg, or how I stopped worrying and learned to love the Foehammer. UNSC Brexit says Hinge, Head, and Demon. Ian says 21 Jump Pod. Matthew says Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Infinite. He also says Men and Elites in Black. Min says SS Investigations. It warts once more. Shadow of Oni says, were it so easy, in an unexpected alliance aboard the Shadow of Intent. That sounds like an actual book.
It does.
And then finally, Redacted says, Phoenix Wart, Ace Attorney. And there we have it, my friends.
Bye. Very nice. I think we've covered a lot. Feel good about this. Fun
Lots
mission.
of warts.
Lots of warts. Warding are all
Blarg,
around.
blarg.
And blarging and warding.
Some
Honk.
blargs. Some warts. But a honking.
That'll do it for our debriefing of the Swords of Sanghelios mission from Halo 5. On the next episode, we'll be covering Alliance and Enemy Lines. Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. You can also support the show by visiting Podcast Evolved on Patreon. Until next time, evolve.
Evolved.
Evolved.
Blarg.
Ward.